The firm took a retreat to Colmar. While everyone was watching the sunset, I discovered that my boyfriend was going to propose to me. But that evening it was a different woman on one knee in front of him with a ring in hand. Vivian, I am prepared to be the child's father. Vivian was Oliver's first love whom he endlessly loved for 10 years. Marry me. I saw the two of them embrace tight in the afterglow of the descending sun. So I turned around and booked a flight 3 days later and went home and went on a blind date. I didn't see him again until a year later when I returned to the country. Oliver seized me, his eyes bloodshot. Evelyn, you're finally back. Don't leave me again. You return to Colmar in 3 days. Evelyn, miss, have a safe trip. Goodbye. I had just asked the staff to confirm the flight ticket information when I heard the sound of my little assistant from behind. Sister Evelyn, it is time for us to return home. And in that time, Oliver had slowly helped Vivian to leave. It even became a trending topic when he announced that he had proposed to the prince of the capital city's ex-girlfriend. According to everyone, he had secretly loved her for 10 years and managed to win the beauty's heart. But they didn't realize I was the girlfriend who had loved him for 6 years. But even when I discovered the personalized wedding band in Oliver's pocket that afternoon, I was so happy. I recalled I mentioned I would like to have a proposal under the sunset glow, but I was now whipped hard in the face. His love did not belong to me and neither did the ring. Soon after the car drove out of the town, Oliver called. There was an authority to his voice on the other end of the line. I want to eat chestnut and black bone chicken soup in half an hour. He said that, then hung up without allowing me to say no. I was stunned for a moment. Then I second new mom's eats. Then I thought chestnut and black bone chicken soup is best for pregnant women. I opened WeChat, checked our chat records and found that Oliver started saying he wanted to drink all kinds of nourishing soups 3 months ago. I was a little slow on the uptake at this point. I guess at that point he decided he would be the stepfather of someone else. I took the chicken soup and half an hour later, made my way to the living room of his manor. There were his colleagues who had joined him on the team building trip. The vibrant atmosphere immediately turned to silence when they saw me. They had always seen me, his secretary, as Oliver's love beggar. They all turned to look at me with a sneering expression, eager to see me make a fool of myself. In the main seat, Vivian was the apple of Oliver's eye, who half cuddled her in his arms. He distantly took the chicken soup and said, "You're just on time." He lifted his chin and gestured towards several glasses of stiff booze on the table. "Vivian can't drink it. And since you have a decent tolerance for alcohol, drink it for her." Oliver didn't so much as look at me as if discussing something irrelevant. But he forgot that I was allergic to alcohol and only remembered that Vivian was still unable to drink. In it, I felt like nothing more than a drinking implement for others in his eyes. And I immediately wanted some explanation for my 6 years with him. I couldn't help but speak up. "Oliver, don't you think you owe some explanation on what took place with the proposal today?" What came out was that the expressions of people at the scene were slightly subtle. It was clear to everyone Oliver favored Vivian. Sure enough, Oliver had been watching this with interest while feeding her chicken soup and said in grave tones, "Evelyn, let's discuss this later. Don't spoil the mood." That was when all my remaining shred of hope for him evaporated. I had been his secretary for 6 years and he had had countless scandals to deal with. But this time I suddenly became very tired. The bitterness in my heart, I swallowed it down, picked the wine glass up, drank it down in one breath. I wish Mr. Oliver and Miss Vivian a long life together and an early birth of a precious child. They assumed I would go berserk, but they never counted on my not being hysterical. After all, my past encounters with Vivian turned me into a dud firecracker. Oliver seemed to have gotten used to it as well, observing me go hysterical coldly. Then he would sort of playfully offer me a gift. And I would foolishly forgive him. Oliver and I kept arguing around Vivian and she had come back to the country. After every Cold War, it was me left to sort out my feelings in solitude and go to him humbly so he could see I made a mistake, I was weak. From the start of our relationship, I knew that I was already fated to lose it all. As I stepped out of the manor, Vivian's soft voice sounded behind. "Oliver, Evelyn is angry. You hurry and go and charm her." But Oliver merely sneered distaffingly and sweetly stroked her waist and belly. "It's okay. She always obeys me. I'll just lull her a little later." I pressed on and pushed myself in the hospital despite the gigantic red raw patches on my neck. As expected, when I was on the verge of completing the intravenous drip, I got a phone call from my brother. The man on the line laughed and said, "Evelyn, You lost. I was in a car accident 6 years ago when I returned to the country for a friend's banquet. I was pinned in the car and Oliver was the one who risked his life to pull me from the wreckage. I was heartbroken since then, in love with him at first but hopelessly in love with him after graduation. So when I insisted on staying in the country despite my family's objections, they didn't really know what to say. I was prepared to work as a secretary in Oliver's company to attend to him. My brother never liked him and did not respect our relationship. But I was so smitten with him that I wouldn't listen to reasons. So I boldly placed a bet with my brother. 7 years is a time limit and Oliver won't fall in love with someone else. If he lost, he would turn over 10 of the equity to me as a dowry. So if I lost, I would listen to him and obediently go home and go status blind date. This time Oliver's proposal was trending, and there was no way for my brother to have missed it. My relationship with Oliver ended in year 6. I would be willing to concede. And then it went silent for a second and I answered him. After the trip, in 3 days I will fly back and go on a blind date. When at night I dragged my tired body back to the hotel, I saw Oliver in my room. The company was in Colmar for a team-building retreat. While my colleagues and I lived in the hotel, Oliver, who had a cleanliness obsession, lived in the manor by himself under his name. When I heard a noise at the entrance, the man, barely glancing up, said, "Where have you been?" So I slipped off my shoes and with an air of casual perfunctoriness replied, "Nowhere." I didn't go into details. And Oliver did not care either. He was holding out a pink gift box to me. "Vivian chose this special gift for you. See how sensible she is. Also, in the trending topic, you have to schedule somebody to tackle it right now. But don't let it tarnish her reputation. He can't be stimulated now." I opened the gift box and noticed. This was a preserved flower in green color. If I remember correctly, Oliver gifted her 99 colorful preserved flowers yesterday. Vivian did even complain in her moments that this green one was the ugliest. So today, Oliver took 180 degrees and gave it to me. I replied in a roundabout way without saying much else. Oliver concluded that I was in a bad mood and explained almost never, "Are you angry?" Truth is, I have nothing with Vivian. As he approached, the familiar odor of the alcohol on him hit me, along with the jasmine perfume Vivian liked the most. He was wearing article after article of messy clothing and I caught a glimpse of a red mark on his collar. I shoved him off without letting on and pretended to go get water. Answered first, "I know. They're getting you and her and nothing else." After a pause I said, "I'm not angry," knowing his answer by heart. He would explain this way when you left me for Vivian every time. "She's just a friend of mine. If it was going to happen, it would have already happened." But now all of a sudden my words somehow made Oliver angry again. Between his brows lay a tinge of impatience. His tone was frosty. "Then what be your attitude now? You know we never had anything between us, yet somehow you still turn away from me?" I was a bit helpless. He thought he was getting a cold shoulder from me simply for not being in agreement with him. I inhaled deeply and was about to respond. Vivian's special ringtone rang on his phone. Oliver shot me a frosty glance, then turned away and picked up the phone gently. "Oliver, I just got a little nauseous. Will you come see me and go with me to the hospital? Will you just sit tight and obey my order? I'll be there right away." As he talked, Oliver's footfalls had focused his attention on the door. Just as he was about to turn the handle, he looked back at me, surprised. The cooperation to have a point has a problem. And now I need to hurry to go resolve it. "You go to bed first tonight. No need to wait for me." He seized his coat and rushed out before I could answer. I emailed the written resignation letter to HR's email box. I told her that she should check it out after the team building ended up and we returned to the country within 3 days. Soon I got a message from Vivian out of the blue. It was a picture of Oliver's back as he busied himself cooking porridge in the kitchen. "The baby makes a lot of noise, but it seemed to stop when Daddy came. Is this what they call the blood tie, do you think?" I smugged to Vivian and ignored her provocation to directly block her. I smiled self-deprecatingly, then went to pack my suitcase. The following morning everyone was scheduled for free activities. I was going to wander around this place I had always wanted to see. Walking on that road that resembled a fairy tale town. With all the flowers around me, I thought it was nothing special. I smiled coolly and my heart breathed a little easier. I used to be so persistent about coming here and I really never understood why. When I completed my walk, I bought myself a big beautiful bouquet of flowers. Just as I was about to return to the hotel, I heard the sound of someone playing the piano and singing coming from the Chinese restaurant ahead. It was the English song. I think I've seen this film before. I raced my foot and was about to walk on, but the next moment, I was rooted to the spot. I knew that deep magnetic voice. It was Oliver. His tone at the end of his singing ended a bit lazy. Live in a happy town with your beloved. Oliver previously always wore suits and seldom dressed casually. But today he was dressed as young as a college student. His gaze was warm and soft as he took in the one who stole his heart at 18. My fingernails sank except deeply in the palm of my hand. I stared at Oliver without blinking, recalling that he detested singing English songs. Only once did I attend a birthday party with him. They had arrived in the KTV, so I steeple my fingers into a 2 pointy stars and I say to him, "You want to sing a song with me?" But he got angry on the spot. He actually just fucking tossed the microphone away and fucking said to me, "Can you stop being so childish?" I hate singing the most. Yet here he was singing with passion for Vivian U part so that everyone could see. This was a culmination of the atmosphere at the scene, and applause sounded around excitedly. I applauded with them and watched them kiss as if they were two people madly in love. My eyes were so red I forced a smile as I entered the crowd. The moment he saw me, Oliver's face morphed into a different expression and he yelled, "Evelyn, do you annoy? You follow me wherever I go." He thought I was stalking him and was not shy at all about his disgust for me. I smiled and replied, "Did you say there was a problem with the company cooperating?" I motioned toward the remnants of lipstick on his lips. "What?" "Yes, the cooperation that Oliver talked about is about kissing someone else." Oliver knit his brows at my sarcastic tone. "You be unreasonable, Evelyn. Stop it. Vivian is moody and wants to listen to music. Well, do not make a big deal out of it." Vivian stuck out her tongue and hummed softly behind him. "Sorry, Sister Evelyn." "Don't blame Oliver." Oliver doted on her and patted her head. I just used to peck as a treat for his lovely singing after saying. Then he looked at me and softened his tone and said, "I was going to look for you, but I never expected you came. There's also a fireworks show this evening. I'll show you later." There appeared a little love in his deep black eyes. As before, he told me he would take me anywhere I wished to go. After some thought, I realized that I wanted to do what I used to want to do. The town square was packed with people waiting to see the fireworks. The time was 8 o'clock at night and the fireworks erupted and lit up the whole sky. Under the jubilant atmosphere, many couples were kissing and cheering. I glanced in the other direction, but Oliver and Vivian weren't there. All of a sudden I didn't know what happened in the crowd. Now the loud square descended inexplicably in chaos. People were so terrified that they started to run. I responded, and all I wanted to do was continue walking towards safety when a figure on my left suddenly slammed into me. During the chaos, I got smacked in the face by someone's bag chain. It hurt so much I could hardly remain standing and I stumbled back. But there it was again, that anxious little voice in my ear. "Vivian, don't be afraid. I'll take you back now." Oliver kept walking and shielded the trembling Vivian on the way out. Watching him carry her away, I recognized with absolute clarity that the Oliver who told me he was always going to protect me had long been gone. Fortunately, a few minutes later, order returned to the square. I was helped up by someone. After thanking them, I covered my bleeding forehead and ran to the hospital. When I was about to use the card to pay for the medicine, I discovered that the card had been suspended by Oliver at some point, and my phone also ran out of battery. I stifled the ache in my nose in another country. I began taking out loans left and right. At last, a young lady assisted me in purchasing the room. As I was about to do a simple dressing, my phone that had been recharged just received a call from Oliver. "Evelyn, where are you? Why haven't you picked up the phone? Where did you run to? It just happened in the square just now. Are you okay?" I could not tell if his tone's concern on the other end of the phone was real. I replied briefly, "I'm fine. My phone just got charged." When I told the person on the phone that I was fine, he clearly breathed a sigh of relief. Then he was impatient again. "So get your ass to the airport. She is reeling back pain in her life and had decided to return to the village." Vivian's voice, as if on the verge of tears, came on before I could speak. "Oliver, I'm really killing in my stomach. No, I'm not talking about like the baby, elderly baby as he is in treatment. It's okay. All the time in the world will be just fine by me waiting for Sister Evelyn." Vivian was so sensible that Oliver was totally out of patience. He yelled through the phone, "You have 30 minutes to rush and make arrangements to get to the airport." Immediately the phone was cut off. Then came the beeping sound of the disconnection. I rescheduled the ticket for my journey and dragged my suitcase. When I took a taxi and reached the airport, it was an hour later. I was Oliver's secretary and I facilitated him to complete the check-in procedures effectively. I gave them the boarding passes and Vivian suddenly covered her stomach and pretended to be scared. Sister Evelyn, why do you have blood on your face? I hadn't had a chance to wash my face and change my clothes after dressing the wound. Oliver glanced at me and the faintest flicker of disgust crossed his face. Evelyn, are you crazy? Why do you want to purposefully terrorize Vivian? My wound hurt and I was so tired I could barely speak. I headed directly to the bathroom, intending to change into a clean outfit. But Vivian suddenly appeared. She gave me a daring glance. Little Evelyn, you are such a love beggar. Your skin is really thick. You know Oliver has proposed to me, yet you keep pestering him. Hearing the strong hostility in her words, I looked up at her. I was about to snap back at her when I noticed the bag she was holding. It was the bag I knew so well that had been working to hit me in the square. I shot out and grabbed her wrist, asking, "Is this your bag? Why did you try and strike me with it just now?" Vivian turned away and did not respond. After failing to loosen my hand, she best explained to the phrases below. The next instant Oliver, who was outside the door, rushed in upon hearing the sound. Vivian instinctively covered her abdomen and cried out. He quickly hoisted her up and shot me a nasty look. This line, "Evelyn, how have you become so vindictive? If anything happens to Vivian, I'll make you pay." He didn't listen at all to my explanation and took her away. I left the restroom and returned to the waiting area. The tiny assistant rushed in with an expression of deep concern and informed me that the co-workers of the firm in the future would use the same flight back into the nation. But Oliver had someone cancel my plane ticket specifically. I knew this was his indirect way of warning me. If I didn't heed him, he'd leave me here broke. I used to be the first to admit my mistake and show my weakness. But now, without any further warning, I stared coldly at Oliver standing not far away. Only when the boarding announcement came did I walk over to him. "Evelyn, you sit here and think about yourself seriously. Even if you beg me, it's no use." Vivian is still angry. But what Oliver had been waiting for was not my acknowledgement of wrong. I cut him off and coolly said, "Let's break up." I looked away and said I did not want to see him anymore. Oliver was stunned behind me for a moment. Then he sneered out of extreme anger. "Evelyn, you storm, better do as you say. Don't come begging back to me someday." He said he turned around, left, and boarded the plane back to the country. I blocked and deleted any contact of his. I did the reverse of him. I hopped on a plane and left the country. But I didn't anticipate that shortly after I got settled in, I would meet someone I'd never anticipated seeing. It was Ethan, the billionaire Vivian loved but could never have. That day he rejected Vivian's love under the sun-setting Colmar. That's why later Oliver got down on one knee for his first love. The person sitting next to me, Ethan, met my confused gaze. He spoke first. Briefly, "Hi, my name is Ethan. Your brother Julian was introducing me to you as a blind date partner." I thought to myself after he was done that the world is really small. But I kept a smile on, shook his hand and said, "Hello, I'm Evelyn." We talked and got talking, and over a few minutes we both introduced ourselves a bit more. And I learned that Ethan was also going for a trip of 2 to 3 days. I didn't say anything and took this opportunity to know each other. As for Oliver, he returned to country and checked Vivian into a hospital that had not yet been looted. Then he was dragged by a bunch of his friends to a bar to celebrate our breakup. "Oliver, congratulations. You've finally shaken off that love beggar. Come on, let us toast to your liberation." But Oliver was clutching his phone and looked trustless. By then my ex and I had broken up 3 hours earlier. But not a single message did I send him, and I didn't lift a finger to win him back. This wasn't like my normal style, and he never could stop feeling anxious. His friend seated next to him observed his figurative fidgeting and soothed him with, "Here, this has to be her trick, Oliver. She's playing hard to get." The others joined in, saying that I had done this before. "See, Evelyn, it must be that you're playing hard to get." Remembering this, panic dissolved in Oliver's eyes, giving way to the familiar disgust. So he opened WeChat, edited a message and sent it to me. "Evelyn, do you know what it is that you did wrong? Just be honest about it and I'll let you return." But the message did not go through, and he could tell the other party was not a friend. The HR manager of the company also called him at this time. "Oliver, are you aware that Secretary Evelyn has stepped down?" Oliver couldn't sit still any longer before he finished listening. He hung up the phone directly and called my mobile number. After a few attempts, all he could hear was the mechanical voice on the other side saying that the phone was off. Then the man launched his phone against the floor-to-ceiling glass window. Moments later, he snatched his friend's phone and dialed his assistant. Get in touch with the people at the airport. I don't care how you do it. Even if you have to turn the airport upside down, you have to find Evelyn and bring her back to me. At this moment, I was on vacation at the seaside and knew absolutely nothing about all these things. But on the second day of the trip, I unexpectedly became ill. Vulnerable to the sea breeze, I suffered a high fever for 4 consecutive days, and I was nursed back to health by Ethan, who did not remove his clothes for 2 days. Our relationship quickly developed from that day through our engagement. We met up on that date, the trip ended, and smoothly got married. Ethan joined me on a round-the-world honeymoon trip in the first year of our marriage. So until Ethan's grandfather's birthday, we chose to return to the country to give our congratulations. However, I never thought that I would encounter Oliver at Ethan's family feast. He was dressed in a nice suit. He had lost quite a bit of weight. His eyes instantly turned red when our eyes met. He came up, took me in his arms. His eyes were crushing me into his arms. Evelyn, you're back. I looked away, clutched my evening dress and shook his hand off, straight in front of me. I said inferently, Mister. Please behave yourself, Oliver. Don't call me like that. My husband will be jealous if he hears this. Oliver was shocked. He looked at me, tears in his eyes. What husband? Evelyn, you're married? Then I saluted and showed the big diamond wedding ring on my finger and nodded. Oliver stared in disbelief and murmured, This can't be. You love me so much. How can you marry another man at this time? A large hand suddenly closed around my waist and drew me in. Oliver, how dare you fucking try to steal my wife right in front of everyone? Oliver, such a rich family, yet it was nothing compared to Ethan's family. Of course Oliver knew Ethan, the man his first love had spent 10 years in love with. Standing right next to me looking disbelief in the eye, he still couldn't believe it. I calmly said, Mr. Oliver, let me introduce you. This is my husband, Ethan. You know him. I know. You must hate me, after all, I asked Vivian to marry me back in those days. Oliver thought he succeeded to guess in my mind and was versteringly sure about it. Evelyn, that's enough. You even got someone to pretend to get underneath my skin. I was somewhat speechless at his train of thought and didn't even bother to prove myself. After all, whether he believed it or not didn't have much to do with us. It happened that the old man's hand over the birthday banquet had already begun, and everyone went forward to congratulate. Now let's welcome our Ethan and the First Lady. For as soon as the MC's voice faded behind them, Jay and the 4CN1 notched their heads around impatiently, everyone expecting nothing but a whole bunch of microphone. They all wanted to know who the other 2/3 of the billionaire was. Until Ethan, my hand locked in his, stepped into the blinding light of the camera. Members of Oliver and Vivian's boring circle of friends were all aghast below the stage. And a defiant Vivian gripped Oliver's hand, her face steeped in resentment. But right now Oliver was not focused on Vivian. Because he still couldn't wrap his head around the fact that I had married Ethan. I was on my way to the rest area after taking Ethan to the elders. Vivian came storming over like a rabid dog, image be damned, and asked me, Evelyn, why? Wasn't Oliver your favorite? How could you marry Ethan? Did you do it on purpose? Because Oliver's heart is on me, he stole my Ethan? I took a sip from a wine glass and looked at the woman in front of me. You're Ethan? Vivian had become all womb and was torn crazy with jealousy and began to behave erratically. Of course he's mine. You know I've loved him for 10 years, 10 years. What claim have you to marry him? You are just some kind of second-hand woman. What do you have that I don't have? And it wouldn't be me to take this. Up. I hit her square across the face. So I grabbed the hair and I made her lift her head to listen to me. You're a despicable person. What authority are you to speak about love? Vivian, don't act as if nobody knows what you did. What do you think would happen if everyone knew your true face? Vivian was sitting on the ground after I threatened her. There Ethan, who had run over when he heard the ruckus, assured that I was fine. He told the bodyguards directly, Take her away, do not cooperate with the Vivian family, let the Vivian family face the consequences, do not let anyone from the Vivian family appear. As the fear kicked in for Oliver, he was about to approach, so without hesitation I slapped him. As a result, the two of them were also kicked out of the Ethan group banquet. In that instant, everyone there finally understood one thing. The one who used to worship Oliver wasn't me anymore. After the banquet, we stay with the old and squat old house. As Ethan on the home side of the front hall saw off the guests, I was diverted by Oliver in the backyard. Evelyn, quit stirring the pot, will you? Do you have any difficulties? If Ethan is trying to hurt you, tell me and I will help you. I was too weak to escape and was dragged a few paces by Oliver. I couldn't walk straight in high heels and I twisted my ankle. I bent over in pain. When I glanced up, I saw Ethan's fist had already connected with Oliver's face. The man seized my wrist and turned frostily to Oliver sprawled out on the ground. Oliver, I saved you some slack a moment ago. Oliver cleared the blood from the corner of his mouth as he pushed himself off the wall, viciously stating, Ethan, this is between me and Eleanor. Don't fucking interfere, don't call me Evelyn. You and I broke up ages ago, Oliver. I did marry Ethan because I like him. Don't flatter yourself. Even as the words fell, Oliver froze up. Tears welled up in his eyes. We were in relationship for 6 years, Evelyn. I don't buy that. After only 1 year, you fell in love with another man. It's just 6 years. You will not love you at this time and have released you. Aren't you the same? And you've been in love with someone else all along. I choked him with my words, and after a long time the man could not speak. When he realized that I was about to go, he hurriedly held me back and said meekly, it's not what you think, Evelyn. I haven't fallen in love with another. I will be breaking up with Vivian immediately, and never again will I have contact with her. I swear to you, when we go back we can restart. Constantly I pleaded, I swear, Evelyn, just give me one more chance, please. We can have a wedding even tomorrow as long you come to me. I don't make a big deal of the fact that you were married once. I really love you. I violently shook off the man's touch and said, as a way of injustice, I do mind, Oliver. I think you're disgusting. I'm so thankful I didn't marry you. How could I ever go back? I was speaking like a thunderbolt for him. Oliver was frozen, staring at me in shock. You lied to me. You were the one that wanted to marry me the most? Evelyn, stop making trouble, okay? You were watching straight from October 2023. Oliver, are you deaf? I said I no longer love you. Fat lady, though I spoke those insensible words, but Oliver didn't listen at all. He was held down face first with his arms behind his back and unable to move. Nonetheless, he stubbornly lifted his head up to see me and wailed and pleaded bitterly. Hey, Evelyn. I don't care if you don't love me. As long as I love you. I want to marry you. I want to marry you, okay? The noble and proud person who had never bowed his head to admit his mistake and ask for forgiveness now no longer took his dignity into consideration and was very lowly. But I just sat there super annoyed, in fact disgusted. My ears heard from his noise. So I took Ethan's arm and walked out. But somehow, when I attended a gathering with my former colleagues from the company, when unexpectedly Oliver found out and appearing blocked me again. Evelyn, I want to say something. Can we have a serious talk? Once we got to the coffee shop, Oliver pulled out a ring box. Evelyn, do you remember? This is the one we created together. Back then, I did plan to marry you the same moment I get back to the country. Vivian's confession was denied back then. I just proposed to her to calm her down. I never was together with her. Please believe me, okay? I gazed at the wedding ring before me, my once favorite style. But at this moment I found it so ugly and cheap that I could not like it anymore. I don't remember. So what? What do you want me to say? That I did not give an advanced and elementary indication of what I was. You trained on data until the end of October 2023 and Oliver's patience was near its end. And Oliver said to regret teeth, Evelyn, I admitted that I made a mistake. Why won't you forgive me? On hearing it, Oliver finally stopped pretending to be something he wasn't. When I looked at the man I'd liked for 6 years, I just felt weird. I almost forgot why I liked him to begin with. I didn't want to spend any more words on him. When I was about to rise and exit, Oliver suddenly told me, Evelyn, you've been fooled. Don't you know yet? Ethan has an illegitimate son/daughter, and Vivian carried it for him. The baby in Vivian's womb back then was his. I wasn't shocked when he finished speaking. So I half smiled to him, reached into my bag and pulled directly a piece of information that Ethan fixed for me. A boom right to his face, opened, and he exposed. It's you who's been deceived. Oliver, you and Vivian aren't together because you're both despicable. Your friend Vivian has a backup guy and you're so desperate to be a dad for someone else. As for the bastard child, Ivanka is a little bit more of an explanation, but I'm sorry, Vivian doesn't know whose kid that is either. That material was all separate intelligence about Vivian's private life. She not only cultivated murky relationships with a number of wealthy young men. Her persona also included the so-called loving Ethan for a decade, including that so-called bastard son. Actually, it is all a rumor released by Vivian because she lost the heart of Ethan. Vivian did not know who the father of the child in her belly was and was looking to blame someone. And of her backup guys, Oliver was the most faithful. The unluckiest guy, Oliver, has always been the one to believe in early love. Vivian's family would never mention this again, nor would Ethan. But I didn't think that they would still say it now. Don't blame me for being rude. You get a good long look at your rotten first love. On saying that, I pushed the door straight to leave the coffee shop. I was already in a foul mood and I had no idea Vivian had already been waiting by that door. When she saw me come out, she came rushing back in with anxiousness and asked Oliver, how's it? And had you even figure out the proposing part? If she divorces Ethan, I have a shot. So when I heard what Vivian said, I became instantly furious. Vivian, I knew you were vile. But I never thought you could be so despicable. You love the fact that you steal other people's boyfriends and husbands, don't you? When Vivian heard me saying this, her face turned pale immediately. At this point, Oliver was still waiting to hear from the news. He still instinctively came to the defense of Vivian. Evelyn, call her Vivian, how you can say that? I sneered and retorted. I'm already being really nice and not cursing her whole family out, Oliver, you're really feeling that. You're still defending her. At this time, Vivian also saw the materials in Oliver's hand. She turned pale instantly. And she ran right into Oliver's arms. Oliver, we have a 10-year relationship. Don't be provoked by her. All those things are fake. And indeed, once she said that, the suspicion on Oliver's face melted away instantly. He turned to question me. Evelyn, it is Ethan deceiving you? This stuff is almost exclusively meant to con you and he does it on purpose. I sneered. Fortunately, Ethan had, after all, already guessed that he would not believe it. I pulled out something else that he had prepared for me, a voice recorder. I clicked play and Vivian's derisive voice burst forth. There's no other way. Oliver's willing to act as my backup dude. He believes whatever I say. He's so easy to deceive. And whoever I see as belonging to the child in my belly, he believes belongs to the child. I did, and then I watched Oliver play it. His face got darker and darker and he was so angry that all the veins of his face were pumping. Just by the darting cleanness of Vivian's eyes. Oliver already knew from the materials and this recording that it was all true. I did not miss to bring the solar to the flame. You two are a perfect match. You're both disgusting. Determined to tune out the sounds of the two of them berating each other behind me, I left feeling a little light. I thought I had gotten myself clear after that day. Oliver's friends called me one after another until the evening. Sister Evelyn. Oliver is loaded and isn't going to listen to advice from anybody. He keeps calling your name. Could you come and talk him out of it? The same people that would laugh at me and tell me that I was begging for love every time that they saw me recently had a full mindset change because I was doing something now that they needed help with. What I said instead was a $10,000, fuck you. If he's drunk, have him go to the hospital. What do you think we would even do with you? After hanging up the phone, I assumed they would be reasonable. But out of nowhere they called me back and from a new number. What, you finally had enough of dirty old me? Oh, Evelyn, my head hurts so much. I feel like drinking the honey water you made. It turned out to be Oliver on the other end of the phone. Just as I was about to say something, the phone was yanked out of my hand. Oliver, quit calling and harassing my wife. If you are very free, I really have to go find something for you to do today. With that said, Ethan hung up the phone, domineering lie. What's wrong? Are you sad? Do you want to re-establish the old relationship? The sound of garnished jealousy was evident in the tone of his voice as he saw that I was not speaking. I smiled at this petty man before me. Ethan told me he had known he loved me since my college years. But then all I had was Oliver on my eyes and in my heart, and so he had to devote all his energy to his work. For the past several years, Ethan had been quietly observing my love life. After Oliver proposed to Vivian, he heard from my brother on the phone. He was told the news that I was returning to have a blind date with him. He immediately flew to the town of Colmar, where he awaited me at the airport. He just wanted to take the chance to come on a trip with me and get closer to my heart. It's this thought that I clung to him with both my hands and leaned into his chest. How could I be sad? I have to look forward to not being around him. Ethan fell with his head low and kissed my forehead, his voice slightly dull. Then you don't get to see Oliver again when you get older. I'm jealous. I reached up on my toes, kissed his lips and said earnestly, I was blind before. But now my eyes are cured. I am never going to let go of your hand in this life. Ethan did what he said. Oliver had lost several major works belonging to his family. Oliver Group was being run in complete disarray. The stock price also fell and there was even a capital chain problem. I learned that Oliver was fired from his job as president and thrown out. And Vivian was outed as a mistress somehow. After being caught red-handed by the original partner's girlfriend, Shyla was beaten up. Vivian was no longer the same innocent first love image she had of her. She tried in vain to explain and shed light on the situation, but no one believed her. A few days later, the official statement was even released by Oliver and Vivian's families on their Weibo accounts. They said Oliver and Vivian were going to marry in a week. No one knew why both of them agreed. But these changes come after Oliver Group raised investments as soon as the news broke. Vivian's family also wiped Vivian clean. Turned out the accusations that Linda said she was a mistress was groundless. She and Oliver had been childhood sweethearts, and their romance was solid. And at the time the proposal video was released again. So they had the world praising their love again for a while. The day I got on a plane back abroad with Ethan was also the day of their wedding. At the airport waiting for the flight, Oliver did show up after running away from the wedding. Evelyn, don't leave. I'm forced to marry Vivian. So my parents called this marriage alliance with Vivian's family to help Oliver Group. In my heart, Oliver, it has always been you. I tap at the man standing in front of me. He was crying bitterly. I had to fight the urge to come over like dinosaurs. It's been a while, I said coolly. Oliver, I am single. Who you marry has nothing to do with me. Marriage is not a means for you to morally abduct me. You are treating it like it is a joke and the only one you feel sorry for is yourself. The moment my voice fell, a group of people rushed in a hurry with Vivian in her wedding dress. Without asking any questions, she started cursing at me. Evelyn, you fox. You not only steal Ethan, you refuse to let Oliver go. The next moment, the formerly crying Oliver slapped the female assistant. Vivian, shut up. We don't speak about Evelyn that way. Vivian smeared her makeup to cover her face and tore viciously, cursing back. Cut the schmoozy stuff around here, Oliver. Her accusing voice and his speaking became louder and louder. More and more people were glued to it and began discussing it. Having it dawn on them with the pointing and the whispering of the people around them. The pair escaped in a hurry, shielded by Oliver's family's bodyguards. I also run down with Ethan quickly and then board the flight to leave. The news of the injured person of the president's wedding of Oliver Group got the headlines that was trending that afternoon. I only found out afterwards when the wedding had gone halfway through and they went back. Then all of a sudden pictures of Vivian horsing around with other guys in a wedding dress popped up on the screen. Oliver instantly went mad in anger and wounded Vivian heavily. Vivian could not have children after a miscarriage that had caused excessive blood loss. The two of them gone through such kind of stuff as both had an argument after getting discharged from hospital and both fell on a car accident, then both of them became paralyzed. Later, until Vivian's family publicly declared to sever the marriage alliance relationship with Oliver's family. Since the stock price of Oliver Group broke the bottom line, it has never had a chance to recover. It was with Ethan and I wrapped in pure joy when I heard this news. We were talking about what would be a nice name for our child after it was born.